Hello and welcome to the Max MPS Radio. My name is Jan Frisse as always, and today I'm honored to have Brett Freeman on here again. Brett was actually on the podcast in late 2019, if I remember correctly.
Correct, yes.
Where everything was still okay, where the world didn't fall apart yet. So yeah, man, I'm pleasured to have you on again, and I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Same here, and again, thank you. I'm honored to be on here. Hopefully I can provide some insight.
I'm pretty sure, and right now, I mean, we're both pretty off-season, I would assume, and last time we were just like, I think barely like 1 month post-prep or something like that.
If that, barely able to string together a complete sentence. Hunched over like this. I remember we were talking about actual posture.
Yeah, could be
as well.
Could be. Yeah, man. Funny times, great times. So, I mean, do you just want to give us a quick update on your current situation in your area and how are things going over there in regards to just like the COVID situation and gyms and stuff like that?
Yeah, so we're not on lockdown necessarily. We are still at 50% restriction, but gyms are reopened, restaurants reopened. School is either remote or a hybrid, so in school 1 to 2 times per week. But numbers have spiked a little bit, but they have gone down in comparison to the beginning in March. So everything's looking up for the most part.
Okay. So did you had any signs of you probably didn't had any signs of a second wave yet, right?
We had a slight spike about a month ago.
Okay.
Which has trickled down quite a bit since then, mainly due to rapid testing increasing.
Okay. So, but you're training in your home gym setting, right?
Yes, home gym, 100%.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Did you actually build that up in COVID or before, like in the whole pandemic?
During the pandemic, about 2 months in, so around June, I started to shop around. I mainly used Reddit to actually pinpoint actual equipment and the availability of it, because cool. it was extremely hard to actually find equipment.
Yeah, was the same over here in Germany and Europe in general, I think so. As soon as they told the population that the gyms would shut down, literally everything was sold out immediately, or they just pushed up the prices ridiculously. That was wow. You paid a lot for really low quality equipment, but in the end it was basically still better than having nothing. So yeah, man, pleasure to have anything to work with at all.
No, same here. I mean, it gave me just more gratefulness towards actually equipment in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
So, I mean, hating that one machine, it's like, I would love to have that machine right now.
Yeah.
In regards to what is going on currently.
Yeah, absolutely. So, coming to our today's topic, we will pretty much talk about different phases in bodybuilding in general and proper challenges that you have to overcome in those phases. So for the beginning and actually diving into the topic, can you actually just briefly talk about your 2019 season for more context?
Yeah, so I self-coached myself from March through October, taking myself down from 180 pounds at peak off-season to 145 pounds. I competed in 3 shows. One was the WNBF Max Hype. The second was the Mr. Pro Universe, and last was the WNBF Worlds.
Yeah.
I handed off the keys to Cliff Wilson in October, so he was the one that brought me into the condition that I brought to WNBF Worlds.
So it was just for Worlds, right?
Yes, just for Worlds. The final 6 weeks.
Okay. So yeah, man, I don't know about you, but I'm super grateful that I actually did the 2019 season, despite everything that is going on nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I feel for the competitors this year because having shows canceled, postponed, just the amount of anxiety and pressure that they shouldn't have to deal with while dieting. I completely feel for them.
Yeah, there were some bad cases this year. I think in the early spring it was the GmbF which canceled the show eight weeks out. Which sucks, but I think like right now the BNBF just canceled the show because UK is going into lockdown again, and I think it's 2 days out, man. Just imagine it. It
should bare minimum. I feel like a month at least. I know it's not that easy, but
yeah, I mean, I think they just I could imagine that the BNBF would do everything to actually do their show. But I think there just are things that you can't control and then you just can't overcome.
Just gotta have to roll with it, honestly.
So, I mean, did you? I know the results of the 2019 Worlds, which was that you won the pro Bantam class, right? So
yes,
you literally current Bantam world champ. What about the other two shows? I remember the max hype was it the show with Chris?
Chris Elkins and Chris Bearcat were the promoters.
Yeah, Chris Bearcat.
Yeah, that was the show that Sam Akinala and Jeff Alberts competed in.
Yeah,
I placed third below both of them.
Was it just a men's bodybuilding open class?
Yes, men's open.
Yeah.
No weight limit or anything. So there was 7 or 8 of us, I believe.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a great class.
Yeah.
And then the second show, the WNBF Pro Universe, which is the pro show of the Natural Mania, I ended up placing second to Garino Mackey, who is a phenomenal competitor.
Yeah.
Like,
yes,
beautiful poser, most humble guy I've ever met.
What weight class was that? Was it
that was
Bantam?
Again open, actually.
Okay.
It was open, so everybody. I believe Andrew Rowenbeck was in that show. He's another Chris Bearcat client previously. So it was. I was the lightest out of all of them. It was 145 up to, I believe, 180, 185 pounds. So
gotcha.
I was outsized completely. So
yeah, I think it's kind of hard as a bantam weight to actually do an open class. Yeah. But yeah, anyways, that's just how some shows are going if you don't have enough competitors. I feel like in the USA you generally just have smaller shows, but probably more shows.
Yeah. The Natural Mania and the Hercules that are held in New York City, they usually attract a big crowd of competitors. So they're the most stacked shows I would consider in the East Coast.
Gotcha. I mean, yeah, it's just different. I think you also have qualifier for Worlds, right?
Yes, that was the main reason I did the max hype, was just for that qualification. Yeah.
So just the top 3 got qualified.
Anybody that competed in a pro class. Yeah. So that was a new. I think that was a new policy that they had this past year.
Because we had to place top 3 as an amateur to actually qualify for Worlds.
Oh wow.
But that was just with the WNBF Germany and with the GmbF in Germany. You just because you don't really have qualifiers. You only have that one big show at the end of the year, and that show is stacked. Like you literally have I don't know, 10 to 20 people or something in a class, or 10 maybe 5 to 15. But they recently in recent years actually split it to 2.5 kg classes. So you have Bantam, you have Super Bantam, lightweight, super lightweight, stuff like that. So it's a lot of classes.
I like that. I bet the quality is extremely high.
It is. Germany is is pretty good. So
I wish the US did that, but that's another.
Yeah, I mean the US probably. I mean if you have a show which doesn't have too much competitors, it doesn't really make sense. I mean if you have So coming to your prep in 2019, I think you kind of known for immense, like crazy conditioning. And Cliff Wilson did a post about you recently, and he talked a little bit about what it takes to actually get that lean. So my question is, what does it take to get that lean?
Gotta grind. No, honestly, I mean, Cliff hit a lot of good points in regards to the suffering aspect. I don't necessarily view it as suffering. I more view it as being able to embrace and enjoy that starvation process while you are, calorically restricting yourself for months and months and months on end. And then the mental fortitude, the ability to not break under that caloric restriction or let it interfere or influence how you are as a human being. Now, I'm unsure if it's the ability to actually endure the suffering, but coping with hunger and the negative side effects is something that's became a lot easier the more I've dieted.
Okay.
And then I mentioned this on the post as well, but growing up in a low income environments, I felt like I may have been predisposed to, being hungry, not having as much food, that being a luxury, and just being content with the aspects of just being hungry, like just generally hungry from day to day, because it doesn't really influence how I felt.
So, how much season did you had before? Like which?
9, 4 seasons. I competed in 2009 as a teen, 2011, 2017, and 2019.
So I would assume that it probably got easier, right?
Oh, definitely. You learn to cope and just deal with the negative side effects that do come with dieting down to those levels. And each year, I was able to get leaner.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Do you think that kind of cancels out a little bit because you get more diet experience, it get easier over time, but you also get leaner over time? So those two maybe cancel out a little bit.
I think so. Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
So as long as you don't hit elite conditioning in your first prep, which basically no one does, it will probably not get really that much easier, right?
Yes. I mean, it's funny because I was one of those teens and competitors that always chased glutes, which may have interfered with my actual dieting experience, because I kind of viewed them as elite conditioning, whereas it may be different parts of the body that should be more conditioned and not necessarily just glutes.
Actually, on a side note, what do you think about the whole discussion about just that you don't have to, or that you shouldn't diet for glutes or just for glutes, but rather have a look, or rather stay in a realm where your whole physique is the best?
Good question. I think it's very individual, and that individual should play to their physique's strengths. So a smaller guy such as myself might have to rely on that conditioning, but then in turn, by being more conditioned, I create that illusion that I am actually bigger than I actually am, which could also be factored in with posing, presentation. But at the moment, I'm kind of 50-50 on chasing the fullness method as opposed to getting conditioned. Now, I'm not saying that they are skimping out on it and they're not like willing to suffer and go to the lengths of acquiring that elite conditioning. I look at an athlete like Ben Howard, for instance, who has phenomenal size. Yeah. Phenomenal conditioning, and I know he may have mentioned that he had been flat or stringy by pushing the conditioning to that level. I don't believe so.
Okay.
Personally, but
yeah, I mean, I think I mean, just dieting literally for glutes and just chasing glutes and neglecting everything else isn't a good thing, and I think we all agree on that. I mean, I think at the top level, like at the pro level, at the world level, you just have to have some type of conditioning, and I think like especially the glutes are part of the body that, like, if you have like really diced in glutes, the judges will look at that. That will get you some eyes at least.
Agreed. And I think that's the only thing that separated me in the Bantam class, because I was outsized, definitely, but conditioning may have been the only thing that allowed me to skate by.
Probably. I mean, it wasn't that you were just in terms of your lower body, but like literally everything was just diced. Like I mean, like if I have a look at your physique, and I mean, I don't I mean, you probably agree that your arms are probably on the weaker side in terms of your in versus your legs or your back, for example. But still, your arms, for example, in the back double bi, still looked good because they were just like shredded. I just noticed that on the pictures that Cliff actually posted. That even though your arms are still probably a weaker point in your physique, they still look relatively good in that pose, because you can just see like striations in your triceps in the back double bi.
It almost makes up for the lack of size, I feel like.
Yeah. So I mean, I think Cliff, I think everybody who listens to this should have a look at the post that Cliff actually did. And I think it's just, there aren't a lot of people that can actually do what it takes. And he summarized pretty much everything pretty good, like constant intense hunger, fatigue, lack of energy, feeling dizzy throughout the day, performance drops in the gym, sleep suffers, being hangry or like irritable. You're pretty much freezing all the time, which I experienced a lot as well. Like I was just constantly freezing. Like it could be even warm outside, I was still wearing like double socks and stuff like that. So
it's always hoodie season when you're dieting.
And stuff like also like body image distortion in relationship with food. I mean, I know that you probably didn't have so much problems with the relationship with food, I would assume.
Not this year, but in previous years I did. Definitely, and I would be lying if I didn't. Yeah, I mean, and that was another area that I kind of attempted to tackle this year, just in regards to messing around with actual food volume and trying to make food as voluminous as possible. That was an area that this past year I just took as it came. Like I'm going to be hungry, so there's no sense in actually trying to make food that is filling.
So I mean, I would assume, and I remember that you still ate reasonable, but not like to the point where you're actually thinking about food a lot. Like,
yes,
in terms of like just volumizing food and putting like sauces on there and stuff like that, and using shit tons of sweeteners and stuff like that.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I still use Splenda or...
Yeah, I mean... Yeah. But like reasonably used it as an adult, maybe.
Yes. It took way more of an adult, mature approach.
So you didn't put Splenda or sweetener on your broccoli?
No, I also didn't use xanthan gum and make fluff whey protein shakes and...
Yeah.
No.
Okay. What about the body image distortion? Because I feel like even like top-notch athletes, like elite athletes, sometimes don't even know how good they are. And I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but probably also due to your humbleness. But did you actually like retrospect? If you look at your photos right now, I would assume that you probably now see it better than in the moment itself.
Oh yeah, definitely. It doesn't normally hit until around maybe 6 to 8 months after the season that I can look back, reflect, and be like, wow, I looked pretty good. But then I started picking apart everything that I want to improve, and
yeah. Okay. So I think that's just the nature of bodybuilding, and having a really critical eye on yourself. I remember Valentin told me when I was in peak shape, he was just like, wait a few months, look back at your photos, and you will not believe it.
Yep. Was that the same for yourself?
Pretty much.
Was it?
Pretty much. Especially to the side of like the actual competition weeks. I think I kind of lost objectivity like 3 weeks out, something like that. Before it was actually pretty okay.
Was it?
Yeah.
I mean, even on and off season, I'm kind of like that personally. Just always clothed up. I don't know if it's from the generation of bodybuilding I came up with, you know, always wearing hoodies, baggy clothing. So there may have been one time during the last contest prep season that I actually wore a tank top or anything revealing, just because I'm very critical.
Yeah, me too. And I actually I thought that was actually that is actually being a good thing in terms of my gym performance, because I was just concentrating on the gym itself, on the performance aspect, which I think is critical, and not looking in the mirror constantly when I was actually in the gym.
Yeah, it's way more internal than it is external. So.
Yeah, I mean, you look at your photos, you do your photos, you look at your photos, you do your posing and stuff like that. You analyze that, but I don't think it's a really good idea to constantly analyze your physique while training, because that will take away from the performance aspect.
It's distracting, way too distracting. Agreed.
Just touching on the food aspect again real quick. I remember, what was the job again? Was it a hotel job?
Yeah, hotel slash, it was a hotel that was mainly known for hosting weddings. So I was an assistant banquet manager, and so throughout the entire 2019 contest prep season, I was working with food daily. I
saw that.
Which, yeah. And it honestly had no effect.
I'm curious about that. So you basically had to work with food all the time, and just Did you make the food, or did you just hand it out? Or?
I would transport it and hand it out to the servers that would serve the tables and the guests. So while I was around it so much, I wasn't watching people actually eat it per se.
It was a lot of dessert, right?
Oh yeah, there were so many wedding cakes in pies that I had to cut last year. Yeah, it was terrible.
But did it? So you told us that it didn't really affect you, right?
No, not at all. I actually ended up having like a hatred towards it, just due to being around the food so much. It became repulsive in a sense. And just an annoyance, I would say, because when you're cutting a wedding cake for 300 people, it's like, I hate this.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I remember, like, I've been there in the past, and I noticed that for people that aren't really diet experienced, that at the point where food focus is actually kicking in, that they start to actually look out for food, but rather than just eat it, but rather that like watching food on YouTube or whatever. And I think that's a really bad thing, because it's just hiring food focus even more. It's just maximizing food focus. And I find it pretty interesting that it was like kind of like the opposite for you, because it was kind of like, yeah, you didn't really search for it on YouTube. You actually saw it in real life.
Yeah, and I couldn't like hide from it or push it away. So it was something I couldn't really control. But I've been there too. I mean, when I was dieting in 2009, I do remember looking. There used to be like a meal porn thread on bodybuilding.com. And I would, while I would eat, I would be watching I would be watching, looking at all of these concoctions that people would put together with all sorts of different various foods. when it was peak, if it fits your macros, it was pretty bad.
Yeah. I'm probably post that generation, if I think about it. Like, yeah, I mean, we all know that probably, like, I mean, flexible dieting in itself isn't really what if it fits your macros in the beginning was about. So yeah, I found it quite funny, because I remember the Matt August days. I think that was basically my introduction to if it fits your macros, and that was an interesting time.
Oh yeah, it got a little too out of hand, and I abused it myself too. I was, Pop-Tart, whey, meal 1 through 6, and
in your prep.
Yeah, Lucky Charms and water micros. So I mean, I was deficient. I was most likely deficient in so many areas. So.
It's interesting. I mean, we will actually touch on that point soon when we come to the off season. So, on the contrary, now that we have touched on like pretty much everything it takes to really get that lean, could you just summarize post-show till now how it went in terms of pushing body weight and performance gains that came along with that?
Yeah. So after the season, I used 3DMJ's recovery diet approach. And then along with that, I put away the food scale, started weighing myself maybe 1 to 2 times per week, reduced that to 1 times per week. Calories were brought up to an aggressive surplus to offset any of the negative adaptations that occurred while prepping. I started focusing on 4 to 6 healthy meals comprised of nutrient-dense foods, as opposed to weighing everything and actually tracking macros. Ended up pushing my body weight from 143 to around 150 within the first 2 weeks post-show. Then up to 155 to 160 2 months post-show. And that was right around the time training performance was starting to increase again after the contest prep. Quarantine occurred, lockdown happens. Kind of spun my wheels with the actual home gym training with only dumbbells. I had dumbbells up to maybe 40 pounds. And then I ended up purchasing a home gym. Continued to push my body weight rather aggressively just to regain all the lost size and strength from being detrained from the previous 3 to 4 months. And then currently I'm around 170 to 175. Performance is still increasing. Body composition probably better than it ever has been.
Interesting. At 170, at 175.
Yes, correct. Which was right around the same weight I was before I started my 2019 prep. Okay,
in 2019, I remember those pictures. Was that the transformation where you actually got from like just like visually relatively bad to that 180 kg and then started dieting? Wasn't there something like where you didn't train, or am I just mixing?
No, there was actually a period from, this has happened for the past 3 years actually. I don't know if I've ever publicly announced it, but
you don't have to if you don't want to.
Oh no, it's fine. It's okay. In 2013 to 2016, I didn't really train too much. So leading up to 2017, I trained for maybe 1 year prior to winning my pro card, then Worlds. 2018's off season, leading up to 2019, I only trained 6 months during that 2018 calendar year. So that was the end result of that heavier, more fluffier physique at 180 that I started in 2019.
So you currently are 175 or 180?
In between 175, 180.
Okay, so you're pretty much a tad over 15 kgs over stage weight, which is probably around 35 lbs, something like that.
Yes, from depleted stage weight at Worlds. Yes.
Crazy. I mean, I'm probably heavier even, and we will talk about that. So basically, I have been in contact with you a little bit over IGDMs, and we talked about how we can do a podcast about actually how it is and what benefit it has to actually push body weight further. So I would like to hear what are benefits of being so much over stage weight, and at what are costs that come with being that heavy approaching peak off season.
Oh man, so enjoying food for one. No, I believe the benefits of being heavier or pushing body weight are the enhanced, improved recovery aspects, the ability to handle greater workloads in regards to training volume, intensity, and frequency, which in turn greater training sessions from a recovery intensity perspective. You're able to have more intent and focus towards your training. And a big one is there's no negative side effects while pushing your pushing upwards in regards to your weight. You aren't going to be dealing with any food focused, poor sleep, poor recovery, mood swings, irritability. And overall, you feel like you're improving as opposed to regressing or maintaining. And then, do you want me to go into the negatives? Or
yeah, absolutely.
There's quite a few. I mean, it really depends, depending how aggressive you actually do push calories, but potentially running into issues with lethargy.
Yeah.
From extreme intakes, higher body weight, poor insulin sensitivity, potentially poor nutrient partitioning at higher body weights, and then past a certain body fat threshold, the amount of muscle, to fat gain ratio gets a little bit wonky. And it can also potentially increase the amount that you have to actually spend in a dieting phase for your next contest season. If you don't employ Minicuts, or if you don't actually have like a cleanup phase or a maintenance phase, and you don't get as many likes on the gram.
Probably the worst reason, right? So I'm not doing that shit, man. I'm out.
Nah, it's
yeah, man.
We're only judged on the stage,
Yeah.
so I mean, there's no reason to maintain sub 10% body fat year round. I mean, unless you're genetically that gifted. So
yeah, I mean, for me, it doesn't really matter how I look between seasons, and I don't really identify with my off season look anymore. And you also look pretty buff in a hoodie or t-shirt if you're a little bit higher in body weight. So for me, the most important thing is that I look better the next time I'm on stage, and how I look in between doesn't really matter too much to me. It may more for others, and I think that's a thing that you should probably keep in mind anyways, especially if you work with clients. But I mean, ultimately, if the number one goal is to be better on stage next time, that should just be priority, and you should do whatever it takes to get that. Find it interesting that you talked about lethargy being heavy, because that's something that I noticed for quite a while now. Did you have that? Are you at that point right now, or do you still have some room left?
Some room left. I'm at the moment maintenance level, I would say. I don't track macros at the moment. It's more intuitive. Shout out to Eric Helms for that one. But when I did notice lethargy start creeping up, I equated overall calories and I brought carbs down, replaced with fats, and then I noticed not as many spikes in regards to just blood sugar and crashing. So
did you just brought down carbs or and up fats, or just did you brought up calories in general?
Calories were left the same, and I equated.
Okay.
Yeah, so I swapped out carbs for fats.
Makes sense. Yeah, man, I noticed that I have, since I'm pretty much eating 4 really big meals right now, that like I have a lot of like postprandial hypoglycemia. Yep. And I feel quite lethargic after a meal. And I mean, you can somewhat counterbalance that with like caffeine intake, at least throughout, let's say, the first half of the day, obviously in still reasonable amounts. but like there will be, I mean, probably also a thing where you just have to suck it up. That's what I'm thinking right now, because I know there will be times when I will do maybe a mini cut or a longer diet for me will be the solution in like the next 2-3 months. I will probably do like a little bit longer of dieting, so not just only like a 4 to 5 week mini cut, but rather like a 8 to 12 week extended cut. And I know that will lead to me feeling much better, and from there on I can push it up again. So I think they're probably, I mean, I'm curious if you ever experienced that. Did you ever push body weight so much that you actually had like negative sides in the gym?
There yes, there. So performance is a bit non-linear when I do push body weight up. There are certain movements that will increase, but then there are certain ones due to leverages being a bit thrown off that do decrease. So
when you actually push weight?
Yes. So I noticed upper body movements tend to increase performance-wise when body weight is pushed up, whereas deadlifts or squats tend to see performance decreases due to leverages.
In a free weight squat, I assume.
Yes. Okay. So pound for pound, when I'm 160 to 165, I'm definitely stronger in the squat and deadlift versus 175 to 180, which is strange. I know.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that. I mean, in a deadlift, it kind of makes sense a little. I mean, also
mobility,
not really.
Perhaps, and getting it could due to the stomach distension and perhaps the belt bracing being difficult.
I thought about that too, but I think, but you're talking about absolute strength, right? Not relative strength.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. I think I never heard about that. I mean, obviously your bench press will be stronger if you gain weight, because you just gain muscle and fat on both glutes and chest, which will kind of decrease your range of motion.
Yes.
But I would assume that in a squat you would even decrease range of motion as well, because you would gain on your hamstring fat and muscle. So, okay.
Yeah, I'm maybe an outlier in that regard. I'm unsure.
So your peak strength, you're right now not in your peak strength in terms of like the squat and deadlift?
95%.
Okay.
Around.
Yeah.
I do know this. I do notice that trend with powerlifters, which could perhaps be why they do maintain their relative weight that they compete at. Because I do notice when they do tend to move up into a weight class, it might throw off their leverages just a little bit, which that extra 15 to 20 pounds might only net them maybe an additional 20 to 30 pounds on each lift. But I'm unsure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really into powerlifting, so I can't really say anything about that. So,
gotcha.
I thought maybe it could negatively interfere with your gym performance when you actually get into regions with your weight or cardiovascular capacities actually going down, and even if it doesn't really. Even if, like cardiovascular capacities aren't the limiting factor in a set, from what I anecdotally experienced and what I heard from other athletes as well, maybe recovery between sets is not as good.
Yes.
And I think probably that's also a point where, I mean, you could argue that you maybe stay there for a bit and try to just hold your weight and try to still increase performance. But I would make an argument that you don't want to stay in that state too long, because at some point you will just get heavier and heavier and heavier and not have any more benefit from that. I
agree completely. Either at that time I would introduce maybe some very light, low impact cardiovascular work just to increase work capacity and your ability to recover set to set, so you're not winded from a set of 6. And then
nevertheless a set of 30.
Yeah. and then even, I mean, I'm on possibly utilizing different rep ranges as well, so you are not being taxed so bad while you have to perform that set of 6 to 8 or 10 to 15.
Yeah, I'm currently thinking about actually doing a little bit of cardio, but I just can't. I just
put the donut in front of the treadmill, and
makes sense. But the thing is, I don't even want the donut.
Yeah. Oh jeez.
So
that's when you know the off season's going well.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about that like right now. How is your appetite and your hunger right now? And do you actually still enjoy food, or is it like where you have to force feed yourself?
I will always enjoy food just for the fact that it's kind of a luxury. But in regards to actual appetite, it comes and goes. Post-training sessions, it's there normally, but throughout the day, it's a bit of a struggle to actually get down food.
So did you ever went to the point where you really had problems getting your calories in?
Yes. Prior to 2019, I had more of a difficulty. That was when my intake was... I was intaking around 700 grams of carbs, which was terrible. Anybody that is jealous, that's terrible. It's not fun.
That's terrible. Absolutely.
It's terrible.
Like 700 grams of carbs. What did your protein and fats do at that time?
Protein was 200 grams. Fat was 100 grams. That was just mainly due to my knee and my activity levels. I was, again, 15 to 25,000 steps a day. So I had to offset that with that intake. And just at a certain point, food was not fun to look at. It was all liquid calories. It was
everything?
Just about, yeah. I remember being on Steve's Revive Stronger podcast, and he was asking what a typical day sounded like for me in regards to eating. Gatorade powder, Gatorade powder, Gatorade powder, and whey.
So that's around 4,500 calories, right?
Yes. That was when I pushed up to around 175, 180.
Interesting.
Not too pretty.
But would you think that now you being kind of the same weight, but have like a better body composition correlates with still having more appetite?
Yes, I do. I'm unsure if it's the actual food quality and food sources. That's a whole nother topic, but that's something that I attempted to improve this off season. Whereas instead of being as so flexible, that I actually comprise my meals of more nutrient dense foods.
So, did you get your micronutrients in before the 2019 prep? Like in terms of veggies and fruit intake?
Mainly through Flintstone vitamins, but
so no.
I was one of those that thought that you could get all of your micros in through a multivitamin, which I had a bad time.
I can assume that, man.
I'm 100% sure I was deficient in iron in 2017. Okay. It was a terrible time.
But in 2019 you didn't?
I did not know. I took more of an adult approach towards actual food sources. It's contest season, not the actual off-season prior.
No, I mean the off-season prior. Season prior. Because I'm forcing everyone to eat like 800 grams of veggies and fruit a day. So
which you should be.
Combined. Which you should be, yeah.
You should be. That was something that Cliff drilled into my head when I was working under him.
But in peak prep, right?
Yeah, peak prep, and I still didn't want the damn veggies.
That's crazy, man. But then probably just because it's not your taste, right? Or yeah, I think it's just a habit of eating them. I just eat them like by the side, just like half a kg of spinach. I just suck it up and eat it.
No, it's something that should be taught as a child, I feel like, to actually eat your veggies. And
yeah, you should eat your veggies. Yeah.
Someday.
Yeah, I mean, with fruits, I love fruit post-show. I remember I literally, like, I had like all these like recovery diet calories, and I just ate like 4 apples a day or something like that. 5 apples a day. But at that point right now, I just blend everything. I just drink my calories and just blend an apple with that and just exit, just chuck it.
That's where I'm at now in regards to getting down fruit and veggies. So
yeah, so probably a good idea to still get your micronutrients in, and I mean that's a heavy challenge. I mean at a certain point, it's a challenge to get your calories in anyway, and to then get your calories in and your micronutrients is a big challenge. And
yes,
I think you should always prioritize that. I mean, if you have a day where you don't eat your veggies, that's okay, I guess. But like, if you can't eat your veggies because you're so heavy, or you can't eat your veggies and fruit because you're so heavy and you're off season, probably maybe time for doing something else, either maintaining a little bit and lowering calories and not being in a surplus, or just maybe cut for a while.
Yeah, agreed. Or increasing the frequency increasing the time between meals, perhaps. But at that point, it probably doesn't help. So I would probably recommend that you just drop a little bit of weight.
Yeah, I mean, what will be talking about cuts? So the last question is actually where and when do you implement mini cuts, if at all?
So for myself personally, I don't employ mini cuts.
Okay.
It's never brought about a positive or optimistic result, and mainly I tend to look at my on-off season as 2 different modes. One geared towards gaining tissue, improving performance. Second is to actually unravel all of those improvements that are made. And the reason for all of this is, in the past, I have employed mini cuts, but I noticed I've shot myself in the foot by either extending the duration of that mini cut,
been there,
or still having food focus or actual diet fatigue. Because I think it was in 2011, after that season, I employed a mini cut only 6 months after that season, which 6 months is not enough time to actually recover from a 10 to 11 month contest prep. So I tend to go with maintenance periods as opposed to actual mini cuts, just harden up at that body weight.
Okay. Interested that you still got food focus in the past from just a mini cut. I mean, I could imagine you said your 2011 season, right?
Yes.
I could imagine after the second season, like 6 months. I mean, the second season was probably not as easy as the 2019 season in terms of just relationship to food.
Yes.
So I would assume that like 6 months post show, you probably still, as you said, not like fully recovered in terms of relationship to food, and then doing a mini cut obviously is not a good idea. But like retrospectively, I mean, just imagine like 2020 would have been a normal year. Like 6 months post the 2019 show, do you think you would maybe or could have implemented a mini cut to and not get as food focused?
Yeah, definitely. And then in turn, it may have potentiated more growth afterwards. But I don't believe my body composition got too out of hand.
Yeah, just hypothetically.
Hypothetically, yes, I may have.
So I mean, I the only reason
I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to Minicuts at all. I mean,
okay, no,
yeah.
I don't think
okay.
so. No. I didn't want to argue about that. I mean, it's basically as everything still down to the individual, and I mean, there's probably a situation where like maybe not 6 months, but like 10 months post show, you probably will benefit from a mini cut. At least some athletes, whether maybe a first timer that is still recovering from their prep. Maybe it's not the best idea to if you recover for half a year to do a mini cut just 2 months after you have barely recovered. So I think just the recovery period after the prep also plays a huge role. Like, I mean, just out of interest, like out of your 4 seasons, how long did it took you to feel relatively normal again? Just comparing those 4 seasons.
It improved year after year. So 2009, it took a long time, around 8 months to a year, to return to normalcy. 2011, around 7 to 8 months. Then 2017 and 2019, it was 2 months max, honestly, if not 1 month afterwards. So I do believe a mini cut after probably would have benefited from it, in all honesty. Just to make, the next step that much easier in transition.
Yeah, I think they're mainly to just elongate your off season.
Oh yeah.
And probably if you feel all the things that we just touched on in terms of negative downsides that come along with pushing body weight, maybe implementing a mini cut will help. But I also have to say, I mean, I mini cutted from July to August, mid-August, and it wasn't really that aggressive. I think I lost 5 kg, so I don't know, 12 pounds or something like that in total.
12, yeah.
And I'm pretty much up to the pre-mini cut weight right now, like 4 months after or something like that, and I pretty much feel the same as before. So at that point it will probably only be solved by a little bit of longer cut, because the 5 weeks were super easy to diet, and after the 5 weeks I still didn't, I mean, I was more towards food. The first few weeks were easier, but then at some point it was pretty much the same as before in terms of just stuffing myself and drinking calories and stuff like that.
Yeah. And hating, yeah. No, and I think you was your body composition a little bit better afterwards as well? While
my body comp right now with 88 kgs, it is actually is definitely better than before the mini cut, but it's still probably quite a little bit too heavy. So my plan right now, I'm just touching on that real quick, is just to maintain throughout quarantine, train hard as normal, but kind of like maintain my body weight for a while, or at least slowing down the surplus significantly, and then afterwards just see where it goes. Also depending on like my private life, and if I what about the move to Vienna and stuff like that. So that will influence what I do anyways, because I don't want to diet right after I move there, and I want to enjoy food for another month or two, something like that. But I just can't push body weight right now, like aggressively, and I don't think I would benefit from that. I did, but I wouldn't if I just continue to do so.
Yeah, no, there's a certain point where there's no added benefit, I feel, in regards to pushing body weight.
What was your heaviest? Was it 180?
Heaviest 180, 182. Yeah, around there.
Do you think that's your highest? Like, do you think you would benefit from more?
If I were younger, maybe. Now that I'm a bit older, I do not believe so. No.
Okay. How much do you actually think you can gain between let's say you compete again in 2021 or 2022?
Oh man. Realistically, I'm 2 pounds maybe.
So 2 pounds in 2 years.
And that's if it is to all be retained. This was something that I actually discussed with Cliff and my wife about actually over my 2019 season in regards to how I coached myself to diet. We ended up noticing trends in my weight from the beginning to the end of prep, that I started out way too aggressive in the beginning, and I held stage condition level leanness for way too long, to the point that I may have sacrificed anywhere from 2 to 3 pounds.
So don't you think that...
Depending.
Okay. Don't you think if you actually maintain more throughout maybe better dieting, and also obviously gaining muscle in between the years, and then also you being pretty much peak shape? I mean, with the years prior, you could probably argue that you maybe get the same weight in terms of stage weight because you just get more conditioned every time.
Yes.
But I mean, just looking at your pics, I'm not really sure if you can be more conditioned. I'm really not sure, to be honest. Like,
I believe so. Just, it's going to sound crazy, but glute area. I do believe
Where?
there could glutes.
oh, okay,
Glutes.
interesting.
There was like a little pinch.
So how much do you think that pinch weighted?
0.004 grams, maybe.
Perfect. So yeah, I mean, I think naturals often limit themselves in terms of like body weight increases from season to season. I mean, it's also obviously super dependent on how old are you and where you actually stay in terms of your training career. I mean, you train for what? For how many years?
12. Yes, 12. 12,
And
13.
And you currently,
Apologies.
how old are you again?
30.
30. Yeah, that's, yeah, I mean, we will see. So in 2021 or 2022, you will end up as a middleweight or something like that.
Hopefully a lightweight, but I have a little bit of room to grow in the bantams. So,
So is your do you actually try? I mean, obviously you should, but are you actually intending to try to get to lightweight?
I would like to eventually, honestly.
Pretty cool.
That would be same condition plus 9 pounds, 8 to 9 pounds of actual muscle tissue, which is a lot.
Will look immensely. Yeah,
that's a lot.
that will be a whole different level of look.
That's Cleveland. I don't know if you know Cleveland Thomas. He's a former IFPA OCB pro. My height, competed at 180, 190.
Could be.
Ridiculous.
When did he compete last time?
I believe 2017, 2018.
What was his last name?
Thomas.
I think I somewhat have seen him. Somewhat. But I couldn't really associate the name with the guy. But
okay.
He looks crazy, yeah. He's Euro
Height, yes.
crazy. And
Yeah.
how much more does he weight?
Oh, at least 20, 30 pounds, at least.
Yeah. Okay.
At least.
Makes sense. So yeah, I mean, if you want to, you can just quickly touch on your future plans, and I think we can call it a day.
future plans?
Yeah, if you want to, you don't have to. I mean, I know that in your life there's a lot of things going on. So
yeah, we can. Do you want to disregard that, or do you want me to just?
What?
Do you want me to disregard future plans, or do you want to?
It was just like a close-up question. If you don't want to talk about that, I can totally understand, because they're just going on so many things right now. And in terms of future plans, in terms of like, I don't know, coaching, being an athlete, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, we can. Yeah, that's fine. Let me just make sure this is recording still. Okay.
That was basically the question. So, any future plans, Brett?
Future plans currently, potentially competing in 2021. All dependent on how my wife is doing in that year. And another future plan would be to grow the ATP Performance coaching business that I am partnered with James Johnson with. Besides that, nothing else.
Cool. So maybe see you in 2021 Worlds, right?
Hopefully.
That would be really cool. I'm super fluffy then. Maybe I just jump in and compete off-season shape.
Heavy weights. I have always wanted to. I have always wanted to do that for the WNBF. Since you have to compete every 2 years, just compete in peak off-season shape.
So you have to compete every 2 years to stay with your pro cut, right?
Yes, correct.
And you just lose it if you don't?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure they'll most likely email you, inquire why you haven't competed, but from what I have heard, I believe so.
Yeah, I mean, just compete off season.
Yeah,
try your luck in the heavyweight. That's quite some progression from the bantams to the heavy, right?
Oh, yes. No Tanner either. No Tanner. Just
yeah, man. Cool. So, Brett, any sources where people can actually contact you or for coaching or asking you a question or whatever? What's your Instagram? What's your social media website maybe?
Yes, I'm Instagram at Baftub, BAFTUB, and coaching website is ATP Performance LLC.com.
Cool. And I will make sure to put that in the description. So thanks for coming on, man. And
thank you for having me.
I wish you just the best, and hopefully next year will be a better year.
Hopefully
it will, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Cool. Have a good one.
You too.